Welcome back, friend. I got another concept for you this week or today. This is something that'll help you learn faster. It'll help you complete songs more thoroughly. It'll help you to memorize. And if nothing else, it'll really shorten your practice time. And it's called the point of change. It's about the point where things change. So it's about breaking down a piece of music into its smallest sort of fragment or phrase. If you were going to learn, let's say you want to learn a 4-minute pop song, and a lot of people will just play it from start to end, you know. Let's say you got a 45-minute period of time where you can practice, and you've got this 4-minute pop song. So really, if you play it from start to end, you'll get 10 plays out of it, won't you? You know, you're going to play that song for 40 minutes. It's 4 minutes long, 10 plays. Now let's say there's a middle eight or a bridge or an interlude that only happens once in the song. That means over the better part of an hour, you've only played that 10 times. You haven't really committed it that much to sort of muscle memory or any kind of sort of neural synaptic strength or anything. You've just done it 10 times over a period of, you know, whatever till the next time you play. So, you know, maybe that's the spot where you're worried you're going to make a mistake or whatever. But if you just sort of break things down into these minute fragments, then I'll give you an example. I've got a stopwatch on here. If I was doing a riff there like this, and I was going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1. Okay, that turned out to be 24 seconds. I'm allowed for the bit to reach over and hit the buttons, you know. I'm practicing this. This is good, you know. It's changing strings. My right hand, I could have been working on, maybe I wanted to do it this way, and I'm working on that technique. That's all fine, you know what I mean? You'll get your 40 minutes worth out of that. But what about if I'm struggling with this left hand business? So now, if I do it this way, I did it about 5 times in 10 seconds, so I'll be able to do it 10 times in 20 seconds. Can you see how by practicing that, you know, I can now go back and think, right, I can think about what I'm having for lunch now. 1, 2, 3. So that's all the concept really is. And if I apply this to a song, like the video that's talking about point of change in chord changes. The example that, say, from a D chord to an F chord, if I'm picking with 6/8, picking, you know, 6/8 time. So now I've got to figure out what the actual movement of that is. And that point of change that leaves me with that fingering that's got the wrong finger in the place for my next chord, which is D to F. Now this is if you're not been playing long enough to be able to just, you know, grab the chord, but you want to play the song with people. So you're practicing that point of change so that, you know, if that's the hardest part in the song, that's the bit you want to isolate, and that's the bit you want to practice. That's all it is. It's just finding that moment that is usually something that is the hardest part of the song, and then just focus on that fragment, that one little smallest fragment, you know. You can shorten your practice time by loads, by just doing what the actual movements are, what each point of change is, and leave out. So instead of doing something sort of 10 times in an hour, you could do it hundreds of times. You know, you find out whatever the little fragment is and think, how many times can I do that? And it might just be a little lick, it might be one part, or it might take a few notes to change. Here's an example for you. Let's say you're trying to learn a lick that goes like this: Sunshine Your Love. But you think, oh, it doesn't matter where you're doing, I'm just doing it down here. You think, oh, I can't remember it all or whatever. Well, what you want to do is think, what this fret 3 and fret 1. So I'm going 3, 3, and then it changes to 1 and back. So that's my first point of change. And I might actually get people doing that sometimes. Or I would do it if it's a piece of music I'm trying to learn and I think I'm stuck. I just got to start somewhere. I'm going to do the first 2 notes, only this is struck twice. And once I got that, I go back and maybe I figure out a good fingering is this, not lifting my finger or whatever, but I've got a fragment and I can play it. And then I can listen to the tune and I can go. So now I'm isolating my little point of change exercise, waiting for the thing to come around. This is a classic tune for being able to do that, right? Not everything comes around fast enough, but you can still find places where that works. And then I want to find the next point of change. And that's all I want, is that point of change. Now the next time I practice and I've got 20 minutes spare or something, I'm not going to do the same thing for anything for 20 minutes straight, but how many times can I do this? I got a buzzing second fret there. And that's, I can practice that loads of times rather than... I can fit loads of those in a smaller space of time. So that's just another example of how this works. You're just finding the thing you need to do. What comes next? What comes next? What comes next? Maybe the next time I sit down, I go... And I think, well, that's close enough to just get that last finger. So the next time I practice that whole thing to the next point of change. Maybe I start here. And I'm building it up in whatever sequence I want. Just like, the same way that we hung on this and just turn it into... We're cutting out all the stuff in between. If we can't do the whole lick, we do the fragment. We do the points of change. That's the first point. And like we just saw, you just go through them and build them. This is part of the Lawnmower effect where, an old lawnmower starts on the first pull out of the winter shed. No way. Come out of the winter shed in summer, you pull that old lawnmower out and you pull the rope and it coughs and sputters and it dies, And it takes a few goes before you get the whole thing running. Find other fingerings. So that's another aspect of the point of change where you look at these little fragments. You're not just where things are static. You have to find out how you can make the point of change concept work for you for whatever phrase you're trying to learn, whatever piece of music you're working in. So that's all it is, point of change. It's about being aware of where the tiniest fragments are, that are the actual movements that you need to do. What do I really have to do in order to then do the next thing? I hope that helps, and see you next time.